If a talent agent ever asks you for money up front, run. That's the single easiest way to spot a scam in this industry. Real agents make money only when you make money. But once you know who to avoid, how do you actually land a good one? It's the classic catch-22 of the creative world. You can't get the meeting without an agent, but you can't get an agent without the work. It feels like an impossible wall to climb. Today, we are breaking down the reality of the business side of creativity. We're looking at how to actually get representation, why the tortured artist persona will destroy your career, and the specific mental habits you need to survive the feedback loop. We're basing this on real industry insights. No fluff, just the hard truths about what actually moves the needle in your career. Let's get into it with Richard Moon, writer, producer, and all-around good guy.
So you asked about agents. Let me just jump back to the beginning. The nice thing about agents and being so regulated by most states is that you can tell the fake ones from the real ones pretty easily, because the fake ones will always ask you for money and the real ones will never ask you for money up front. But as to how I got my agent, it's a weird story that's not necessarily applicable to everybody out there, because you always get the question of, well, how do I get an agent? I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. The way I got my agent is I made a feature film with one of his clients in it. And she was a friend of the director. We cast her. She did a great job, and we had it at film festivals. And one of the film festivals we were at had my agent Ray Cavallari he did a thing for the film festival where he would have dinner with a bunch of the attendees, and just to talk over, how do you get an agent sort of questions. And at that dinner, it was like, yes, I made Driving by Braille. And he's like, oh, my client was in Driving by Braille. I really liked it. And then, so it was just having that connection to start with. Having that connection is what got him to read the rest of my stuff, like the rest of my stuff, and take me on as a client. So it's, like I said, it's not a totally applicable story, because someone says, how do you get an agent? I was like, well, I made a feature film. You want to try that first? That seemed to work.
Let's go back to that opening point. In most states, talent agencies are regulated. The fake ones ask for a registration fee or headshot fee. The real ones operate on commission. But simply being real doesn't mean they want to sign you. The brutal truth: there is no single application form for getting an agent. Let's look at Richard Moon's filmmaking experience when he did the indie feature Driving by Braille. He didn't cold call his agent. He cast an actress who was already represented by a good agent. He made the film got into festivals, and the agent came to see his client's work. Because the work was good, the agent became interested in the writer-director. The connection wasn't forced, it was organic. The takeaway here is that you can't just query an agent with an idea. You need to be a moving train. If you're producing work, whether it's a short film, a web series, or a polished novel, you create a gravitational pull. Agents are looking for momentum. If you can prove you are already doing the work, they will want to jump on board to help you scale it. Okay, let's say you have the momentum, you have the meeting. How do you actually sustain a career? There's a dangerous myth in Hollywood and the arts in general, the difficult genius. We think that to be a great artist, you have to be moody, exacting, and rude. That's absolute garbage. Unless you are already generating millions of dollars at the box office, nobody has time for your ego. The industry runs on relationships. Sounds like networking almost, just knowing people, being out there, putting yourself out there. And
because so much of those agent-client relationships are personal relationships. It's this person has to want to work with you. So much of the indie film world is being the sort of person that other people want to work with.
Right.
And we prided ourselves on having a set that people were happy to come to every morning, that no one was tearing their hair out about. And on the producer side of things, sometimes that's as simple as having a really good crafty table and sticking to the scheduled time limits, getting people home and making sure everyone's comfortable and, letting the actors do their thing without getting shouted at. That sort of, it's just being a nice person while also getting the thing done is so important, and it's almost incalculable. And it's amazing to me how many people miss that idea and think, well, I got to be an artist, which means I got to be a total jerk. And it's like, no, man, there's a reason nobody wants to work with you anymore. You only get away with that if you're hugely successful. And even then, sometimes you don't get away with it. Yeah. So my advice, how do you get a client? Be someone other people want to work with.
On a practical level, being a good producer or a good client means respecting people's basic needs. It means having a good craft services table. It means sticking to the schedule so people can go home to their families. If you treat your set of your writing partnerships like a war zone, people might finish the project, but they will never hire you again. Being the person that others want to work with is an incalculable asset. It's networking without the slime. It's just being a decent human being. If an agent knows that sending you to a meeting will result in a happy casting director or producer, they'll fight for you. If they worry you're going to snap at the assistant, you're a liability. Now let's talk about the internal game. Nothing kills productivity faster than stress and self-recrimination. You know that voice that says, I have to write another 1,000 words right now or I'm a failure? That voice is the enemy of good work.
Take care of yourself. That nothing can kill creativity, even productivity, more than stress and self-recrimination. And you're not going to get the best next 1,000 words out if you are telling yourself, I have to get another 1,000 words out, when what you really need to do is get up and go outside and go for a walk and just not be thinking about that thing for a while. It was a lesson that took me a long time to learn. And once I did learn it, I stick with it like very assiduously. I know sometimes I have to stop and not be, slamming my head against that wall all the time. I need to go out and go outside. And I even have a tattoo on my arm that says, it is solved by walking, because I got to remind myself, nice. If I'm having some problem, if I'm at some block, just get up, go for a walk.
Stepping away isn't quitting, it's reloading. Whether it's a walk around the block or a hike, changing your physical environment resets your perspective. You need to treat your creativity like a muscle, not a bottomless well. If you overtrain a muscle, it tears. If you overwork your creative brain without rest, you burn out. But eventually, you have to sit back down, and that brings us to the ultimate fear, the blank page. We often hesitate to start because we don't feel good enough yet. We wait for the perfect opening line. But here's the golden rule of writing.
Being afraid of putting things into that concrete form. Being afraid of that first draft. So many young kids I've talked to that are like, but I don't know if I'm good enough to write this yet. And I say, no. You have the idea, write it. You can always fix what you've written. You can't edit a blank page. You can't rewrite a blank page. You have to get over that fear of starting. And it's a fear that I think all of us have, and that I experience every single time of, when I open up that new document and it is a blank page. It's not, nothing's on there yet. And I'm like, oh, but how do I start this? What if it's not the right beginning? And you just got to push through that fear. You got to recite the Bene Gesserit litany against fear and get with the writing already, Write those first words, because once those first words are down, you can say, oh, those aren't the right first words, and you change them. Boom. You know what I mean? It's like,
okay.
You could, once you've gotten something down, then you can change it. Then you can fix it. And the only way to get better, to get to that point where you feel confident and in saying, this is what I want, is to write, is to do the art. You can't get better thinking about it. You have to do it. It's a skill. You have to develop it. It's just like running. It's just like any sport. You got to build those muscles.
Think of it like clay. You have to throw the mud on the table before you can sculpt it into something beautiful. If you're terrified of the mud, you'll never make the statue. Push through that initial fear. Write the wrong words just to get them out of the way. Once they're on the page, you are no longer a creator facing the void. You are an editor fixing a problem. And fixing problems is much easier than creating from nothing. Once you have that draft, you enter the danger zone. Notes. Receiving feedback is a skill as important as the writing itself. When someone tells you this doesn't work, your instincts will be to defend your baby. Don't. Hey folks, let me break in for just a second and send a shout out to my friends over at OBA or One Brilliant Arc. I'm not getting paid for this or anything at all. These are just really great people. They have been helping me edit my upcoming screenplay, A Good Man. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about that, kind of get a sneak peek as to what A Good Man is about, head on over to their podcast or their YouTube video here. I'll put the links in the description below, and you can check them out. And if you need any editing services, give these guys a try. They're pretty darn awesome. Now back to our show.
I would say always be open to getting notes. Always listen to notes. Don't get defensive. If someone is giving you a note that you really don't like, it's fine not to like it, but don't fight the notes. There's never any benefit in fighting back against notes. Because if someone is tripping against something in what you're writing, maybe you need to look at it. Maybe their advice is not what you need to do, but you should listen. You should listen to the reaction, because when you get right down to it, it's a reaction. If someone's giving you praise, that feels great. If someone's saying this part didn't work, then that doesn't feel good, but they might have something there. It might not be working because they haven't lived with the story in their skull. You know, it hasn't been part of their soul for however many years. They're just reacting to what you wrote. And if they have a note there may be a reason for it. On the flip side of that, never be afraid to take a note and throw it right the hell out. Excuse my language. Just because sometimes notes don't work. And so it's really that be open to what people are telling you, but be confident in your own vision. Like if what they're saying, this part didn't work for me, maybe take a look at it. If they're saying because it needed to do this, they might be wrong. They might be right, but most of the time they're wrong. So that's my two pieces of advice. Be open to notes and be willing to throw them out. You know, I had to get out of my 20s before I could hear someone say, this is bad, and not be like, well, you know, but
what do you know?
Exactly. But a bit of peripheral advice I'd give is a great way to get better at taking notes is to give notes, is to read other people's stuff and give them, you know, your honest opinion, and recognize how hard it is to give harsh notes. And hopefully you're not the sort of, hopefully anyone out there is not the sort of person that's like, oh, I love tearing a thing to pieces and making somebody cry, you know, because then you're just cruel and no one wants to have you read anything.
Right.
But yeah, and a sort of corollary to that too is you find the people who will give you the hard note that you trust, because they are infinitely more useful than the people who will tell you everything is great, everything's wonderful, and you're the best, you know, just endlessly praise you. The praise feels good, and then after a while you're like, yeah, okay, but no one else is repeating that except for you, so is there anything you want to tell me? And they're like, no, I just want to tell you how good it is because I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Sometimes like, okay. My family isn't always so some families might be brutally honest, but a lot of families, they just want to love you and tell you that, you know, everything you put to paper is golden. I got one relative I don't bother to give anything to read because they'll just tell me, oh yeah, it's nice, and then that's it. And I'm like, yeah. Get the leverage. Be a professional. Walk off the stress and respect the feedback loop. That is how you build a career that lasts longer than 15 minutes. Folks, this was only a tiny portion of the interview that I had with Richard Moon. If you'd like to catch the whole thing, run on over to my podcast, the Light-Minded Arts Podcast, and listen to the entire interview. It was an awesome, excellent interview, and you're going to get so much out of it. And don't forget to check out this seasoned storyteller's latest book, To Conquer Death. Check out the link in the description below, visit his website, or go to wherever you buy your books. If you found this helpful, hit that like button. It actually helps us get our work seen by the algorithm. And let me know in the comments, what is the worst piece of creative advice you've ever received? I want to hear it. Thanks for watching, and keep writing.